The ocean does not forget. It buries. Somewhere beneath dark, unmoving water rests a vessel so old that its steel no longer remembers the warmth of the sun. Built long before the final years of World War II, this ship was never meant to become a coffin. It was slow, outdated, vulnerable, yet it was chosen to carry something far heavier than cargo: human lives. As divers descend, the temperature drops sharply, as if the sea itself is warning them. Light fades. Sound disappears. Then, emerging from the darkness, the silhouette appears, a long, broken hull resting on its side, torn open by time and violence. At first glance, it seems like any other wartime wreck. Rusted metal. Collapsed decks. Open hatches swaying gently with the current. But the illusion lasts only seconds. Inside the ship, the dead are still waiting. Skeletal remains lie scattered across the interior, some tangled together in narrow corridors, others pressed against sealed doors that never opened. Their positions tell a story no document ever recorded. Fingers hooked into rusted grates. Spines bent toward ladders that led nowhere. Mouths frozen open in silent screams that never reached the surface. These were prisoners. Captured during the war, stripped of names and reduced to numbers, they were transported across hostile waters with no protection, no markings, no chance. When the ship was attacked, whether by torpedo or bomb, there was no evacuation order for them. Water rushed in faster than hope. The lower decks flooded first. Darkness followed immediately. Air pockets vanished. Panic had no language. Chains, locks, and iron doors became instruments of execution. And then, nothing. The ocean closed over the ship and sealed the crime. Decades passed. Empires fell. Wars ended. But beneath the waves, time stopped. The prisoners never escaped. And the sea never let them go. This is not just a shipwreck. It is a mass grave, perfectly preserved, waiting in silence for someone brave enough to look inside. Entering the interior feels less like exploration and more like intrusion. The ship's corridors are narrow, built for efficiency, not humanity. Steel walls close in, coated in thick layers of rust that peel away like decaying skin. Every movement stirs fine sediment from the floor, particles that once settled on bones, shoes, and forgotten belongings. The prisoners' quarters are unmistakable. Iron bunk frames line the walls, twisted and collapsed, some still holding skeletal remains exactly where bodies once lay. Skulls rest against metal bars. Rib cages are pressed flat against the floor, as if the ocean itself pinned them there. In several places, chains are still attached to the walls, their ends wrapped around nothing but water now, their purpose chillingly clear. There was no escape route. Personal objects lie scattered among the remains, preserved by the cold, oxygen-poor depths. Tin cups, dented and corroded. Buttons from uniforms long dissolved. A cracked pair of round spectacles rests beside a skull, lenses clouded but intact, a final trace of someone who once needed to see. Weapons are present too, but only for one side. Near the upper deck, divers find rifles leaning against bulkheads, their wooden stocks eaten away, metal barrels frozen in place by corrosion. These were bolt-action firearms, heavy, reliable, slow, designed for control, not mercy. Ammunition pouches remained sealed, untouched. The guards never ran out of bullets. In contrast, the prisoners had nothing. No tools. No weapons. Only hands, fingernails, and desperation. Scratch marks are visible on the inside of a steel door, deep grooves carved into metal by repeated attempts to force it open. The marks overlap, frantic, uneven, unmistakably human. In one compartment, a skeleton lies curled beneath a staircase, arms wrapped around the knees. A posture of fear. Or prayer. The silence is absolute. Even the sea seems to hesitate here, as if unwilling to disturb what it claimed. The ship does not creak. It does not shift. It simply exists, holding its secrets, guarding the truth with rust and pressure. This wreck was never meant to be found. And perhaps that was the point. Further inside the wreck, time begins to collapse in on itself. The deeper the divers move, the more the ship feels less like a vessel and more like a sealed tomb. Compartments blur together, each one telling the same story in different arrangements of bone, metal, and silence. In what was once the engine room, massive machinery looms like drowned giants. Gauges are frozen mid-reading. Levers remain locked in their final positions. Thick cables snake across the floor, now home to coral and marine life that has grown around tragedy without understanding it. The engines never exploded. They simply stopped. Power was cut. Darkness came instantly. Nearby, a cluster of skeletons lies close together, tangled in an unnatural way. These were not men who died alone. They gathered here, likely drawn by heat, noise, or the false hope that the heart of the ship might offer escape. Some skulls are tilted upward, jaws open, as if frozen in a final gasp. Others press against one another, suggesting panic in the final minutes as oxygen vanished and water surged in. Personal items tell quieter stories. A small comb rests beside a skull, its teeth mostly intact. A leather-bound notebook lies partially open, its pages long dissolved, leaving only the faint outline of where words once existed. Nearby, a single shoe, much smaller than the others, raises questions no official record ever answered. The ship carried prisoners, but it also carried secrets. In a locked compartment near the stern, divers discover crates marked with faded military symbols. Inside are grenades, their casings swollen with corrosion but still dangerous. Some are tied together with wire, suggesting they were never meant to be used in combat, but as deterrents, or something worse. The presence of such weapons so close to prisoners suggests fear, not confidence, ruled those who commanded this vessel. Then there are the doors. Several watertight doors are sealed shut from the outside. The mechanisms are intact. They were locked deliberately. On the inside, skeletal hands rest near the edges, fingers splayed toward freedom that never came. These people were not overtaken by chaos. They were contained. At the lowest accessible level, the water grows colder, heavier. Visibility drops. Here, the final truth waits. A makeshift memorial has formed unintentionally over decades. Helmets, bowls, fragments of clothing, and bones have drifted together into a single mass, gently arranged by currents. It looks almost intentional, as if the ocean itself tried to offer dignity where humans did not. This is not just a shipwreck. It is evidence. Evidence of decisions made far above the waterline. Of orders given and obeyed. Of lives weighed against strategy, and found expendable. The ship sank decades ago, but its crime never did. And as the divers slowly retreat, one realization becomes unavoidable. Some wrecks are discovered by accident. Others are hidden on purpose. When the divers finally begin their ascent, the ship fades back into darkness, but the weight of what was seen follows them upward. Sunlight returns slowly, painfully, as if the surface itself resists acknowledging what lies below. The wreck remains untouched, sealed once more beneath tons of water, but its story has already escaped. Official records describe this vessel as a wartime loss. A casualty of chaos. An unavoidable consequence of conflict. But nothing inside that ship supports that version. There is no evidence of evacuation. No sign of an organized rescue attempt. No indication that the prisoners were ever meant to survive. The sealed doors, the untouched weapons, the absence of lifeboats, all point to a single conclusion: the ship did not simply sink. It was allowed to die. And with it, everyone trapped inside. The ocean became the perfect accomplice. Cold, silent, final. It erased screams, swallowed evidence, and preserved the truth in rust and bone, far from courts, headlines, and accountability. Decades passed. Governments changed. Flags were lowered and raised again. But the ship remained, patiently waiting. Even now, there is no official memorial. No list of names carved into stone. No ceremony held above the coordinates where hundreds took their final breaths. The prisoners were never mourned because acknowledging them would mean admitting what was done. And so they were forgotten. Until now. Every object inside that wreck is a testimony. The rifles that were never fired. The grenades that guarded silence. The cups that were never filled again. The skeletal hands frozen mid-reach. These are not relics of war, they are witnesses. This is why access to such wrecks is restricted. Why footage is classified. Why coordinates are blurred. Because once people see what rests below, the story changes. War stops looking heroic. Strategy stops sounding clean. And victory begins to rot. The ship does not accuse. It doesn't need to. It simply exists, unchanged, holding the final positions of men who were denied even the dignity of escape. Their bones do not move. Their story does. And now it belongs to you. Because the moment you hear it, the moment you imagine those corridors and those sealed doors, you become part of the chain that refuses to let silence win. The ocean kept this secret for generations. It will not keep it forever. Somewhere beneath the waves, the ship still waits, not for rescue, not for forgiveness, but for remembrance. If this story stayed with you, don't let it sink back into silence. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like, it's the simplest way to help these hidden stories surface. And if you're ready to uncover more forgotten truths buried beneath history and the sea, stay with us, the depths still have many secrets to reveal.